And welcome to Dovetail Learning's webinar on noticing. This is an opportunity for us to simply explore what this means, noticing, looking at precious moments. What are they and how do we access them? My name is Chuck Fisher. I'm the Director of Transformational Learning at Dovetail Learning. I'm a Ph.D. in transpersonal psychology, which is the psychology of contemplative wisdom traditions across the world, Eastern, Western, Native, Oceanic. And I'm also one of the architects of our approach, which we call We Are Resilient. In addition to that, I'm a wilderness guide, a meditator, I'm a black belt in Aikido, and I love doing this work. So glad you can join me today. This is a 30-minute webinar. It's a glimpse into this framework of noticing. And love to start by acknowledging Dovetail, a nonprofit that's bringing this work into the world in order to strengthen people, make our world a better place. We train educators and parents and healthcare providers, really anyone who works with children as well as others. The work is universal. And really what's behind what we do is learning how to be the best possible human being that we can. If you're new to Dovetail, just want to say a couple more things. First, that our work is an open education resource, meaning that it is free and it can be downloaded and used, adapted. Our license is an International Creative Commons license, which asks you to, if you use the work, to give attribution, collaborate, and share back. And if you publish anything using our work, to share it alike, which means the same license, same Creative Commons license that puts the work into the public domain. It's part of the fun of doing this. The agenda today is to start with noticing ourselves. We'll walk our talk for a moment, a brief experiential settling. Then I'll explain very briefly an overview of the We Are Resilient approach so that we can put noticing in context to how we look at the world. We'll look at noticing specifically what it is we notice and the perceptions that create our noticing, both what gets in the way and what helps. And all of that is about how do we access this precious experience that we call life, which is quite magical. As I said, we'll start with a brief experiential. We do this using a singing bowl and a 20-second pause where I will ring the bell, ask everyone on the webinar to take a breath, drop into the self, and notice what you notice. And we'll see where that takes us. So from wherever you've been in your day, let's just take that precious pause. And if you're comfortable closing your eyes, we'll do that, or allow your eyes to just settle. And just take a few breaths. Be aware of your own state of being. And with the bell, take a deep breath and bring yourself back into open awareness. And I'd ask you to just use the chat window and chat in a word or a phrase that is just exemplary of your own state of being. I'll put in a few here, the kinds of things that we show up with when we come to a meeting like this. Noticing our curiosity, what it is to be open, to be present, to just be here. Um, the expression of fullness, interest, just being distracted, um, happy to be in an exploration like this, stressed, grateful, all of the ways that we find ourselves during the course of a day. We can notice that we may be any of these at any point in time, and just invite us to notice this is part of our human condition. Sometimes we're here, sometimes we're not. And what is that all about, both for ourselves and for how we experience other people when they're present or not, when they're noticing what's happening or lost in the realm of the mind, we might say. As I said, I'll do a very brief overview of what we call the We Are Resilient approach. It's an approach to well-being. It has several parts. Includes resilient mindsets, leaning into curiosity, looking at the whole continuum of choice and that we have choice, and the lovely experience of courage, which comes from the root word core, which means heart. So we define courage as following your heart, following our values, being standing up for what we believe in through courage. Resilience also includes two sets of patterns we call cultural patterns and protective patterns. Cultural patterns gives us a type of resilience that we gain from intergenerational transmission of cultural values and behaviors and attitudes and beliefs. Protective patterns is about our reactive resilience, how we react. Do we have reactive patterns? And we'll look at those just a little bit. And then the We Are Resilient approach also distinguishes three sets of skills: centering, connecting, and collaborating. How do we center ourselves for personal resilience, to be whole and well? How do we connect relationally with others for relational resilience? And then what does it mean to work as a group and to collaborate? And distinct skills that help us to appreciate others, have agreements that work well, etc. Not going to be going into the depth of the mindsets, patterns, and skills, because we're really here to talk about noticing. And I'll just say that we love the definition of resilience from Ann Maston, University of Minnesota. It's just an ordinary superpower. It's not rare. It's the everyday magic that we all are resilient. We bounce back from wherever we've been. We get triggered by something we read in the news, or someone who cuts us off on the highway, or a close friend or partner or child and their tone of voice, and it throws us off, and then we bring ourselves back. We find the ways to bring ourselves back to balance, back into our center, and it's what we all do every day. And noticing helps us to do it. Noticing, what is that exactly? Noticing. Noticing is the only way that we can bring ourselves back to center, because first we have to notice that we're off center. And there's several words I want to define that help us understand this. We'll start with awareness. Awareness is a broad perception, really just that something is happening, something exists. Awareness may be the broadest way we can think about noticing. Another very common term in the culture today is mindfulness. Mindfulness is often inner. We think of the word mind and fullness, and mindfulness often is attached to meditative practice. Being mindful is very often thought of as an inner experience of my own thoughts, emotions, experiences. I might have my own thoughts, emotions, experience about something outside of me, but it's really being, attentive to noticing what's happening inside me. And then the third word, which is not often used, is the verb from presence, which is called presencing. And presencing is the occurring nowness of both our inner and outer experience. We're going to look at it more carefully in a few minutes. What exactly is presencing? Where does it come from? But right now, let's just hold these ideas of noticing, that we can be aware of whatever's happening. We can be mindful of our inner experience and how we're reacting to an outer experience. And then we can be presencing the occurring experience of life unfolding in its magical essence, in any capacity, in any situation, whether it's a situation of wonder or a situation of tragedy. We can be presencing all of it somatically and experientially and in the here and now. So utilizing some of the frameworks that I just shared about dovetails, we are a resilient approach. In noticing, we like to start with noticing ourselves, noticing myself. We have this phrase, pause, what's the cause? And in the definitions that I just shared, we would call this a type of mindfulness. Noticing myself, noticing what's happening, what am I sensing, what am I feeling, what are my body sensations, how is my breath, what is the tension I'm feeling in my body, whether it's body aches or an anxiety, a stress, movement, proximity, space, my thoughts, my reactions, my emotions, all the dimensions of self that we can be present to, aware of, and notice. We go from noticing myself, and we use these in terms of the three skill areas of centering. Noticing myself is the first movement in centering. I have to notice myself. In connecting with someone else, in addition to noticing ourselves, then we begin to notice others. Noticing you gives me a clue. What are all the ways that I can notice someone else's state of being? Their facial tone, the muscles, tone of voice, are their shoulders raised? Is their body posture, clenching, behavior, actions, stillness or movement? We just give away so much appropriately because we're human beings. And human beings have this incredible radar system called the heart, which picks up on what others are experiencing. In fact, the science behind that shows that our heart can literally feel the shifts in emotional character in another person who's in the same room with us. And such a beautiful exploration. This relatedness, noticing ourselves, noticing others. And when we begin to notice others, then we move into the next phase, which is noticing a group of people, or noticing the group that we're in. And our phrase is I see you, me, and we, the we together. Dan Siegel calls this the muy. He puts the word me and we together and calls it muy. And if you don't know his work, he's a psychiatrist who does incredible work in the area of the neurobiology of um, consciousness, well-being, etc. So what am I noticing about the group? I'm noticing uh, people's emotions, other people's emotions, their body tone, their language, their interaction. Who's in? Who's out? Is someone being left out? Is someone not participating? What's being spoken or not being spoken? Where's the vulnerability? Where's the ease and openness? You know, we walk into a room full of people and we can sense and feel whether there's tension there, whether there's joy. And again, we feel it through our entire somatic body system, including that incredible Wi-Fi system that we have, which is the heart, picking up on other people's energy, their level. And then we're picking up on our own level of belonging, which is more complex. We have levels of belonging that we learn in our family that we take into groups with us. And we might notice I'm regressing in age when I'm in this group, or I'm being an adult when I'm in this group. So much to notice about groups and our experience of being in a group. And as I said earlier, we distinguish that in the whole area of collaborating, group resilience, and the possibilities that you can unpack by going on our website, going into our training, downloading our free materials. So then there's the sets of patterns that can get in the way of noticing. And we notice our protective patterns, and these are patterns we all have of distrusting, being worried about how someone might be, being hypervigilant, one of my own favorites, because I grew up in an alcoholic family and I had to be hypervigilant in order to stay on top of things. Have hypervigilance in my expression of work because I work really hard, and sometimes I can be a workaholic, which is a type of hypervigilance. We can be hypervigilance for others. We call that hyper caretaking, taking care of others at our own expense. The patterns of avoiding and not paying attention or pretending something's not happening, and then defending and attacking, being upset and trying to hold off, or being aggressive. And we all have our own patterns. And noticing those patterns helps us be more whole, helps us be more in the truth of who we are. When I can see that I'm being distrusting or being hypervigilant, then I can name it and step away from it and come back to myself and be more whole, which is part of the beauty of noticing. And then the other pattern that we define and teach about and explore is this intergenerational transmission of patterns that we learn from our families and our ancestors and our culture and the milieu within which we grow up, which gives us unconscious bias, blind spots, which we like to also call mind gaps. There are gaps in our awareness, and our cultural resilience, how we're able to, or how difficult it is to be resilient from a cultural context. And we might notice that we can be curious about that when someone walks into the room and they're carrying their entire cultural baggage or cultural connectedness with them, that it impacts who they are. And every single human being has absolutely impeccable reasons for being exactly who they are. Think of someone on the other side of the political divide or on the other side of the world who's acting in ways that we don't believe are helpful. if we walked in their life and in their shoes and had their cultural patterns and beliefs and expectations and oppression, all of those things that impact us, as well as the beauty and the joy of the celebrations that occur through our religious traditions or our family traditions or our community traditions that help us know that we belong and are held and are part of the common humanity in life. So these types of noticing, going from noticing ourselves to another person to the group, noticing our protective patterns, noticing our cultural patterns, all of that is the ground through which we walk through every day. And I said we'd come back to this word called presencing, which I want to unpack a little bit because I love it personally, but it has deep, beautiful research behind it. This is a phrase from one of my favorite contemplative Buddhist thinkers, Oren J. Sofer. He says, we recognize presence instantly when it shows up in our life. You're talking with someone and they may be distracted, then all of a sudden they turn to you and are with you. They're present. We recognize that shift and that change. We recognize it in ourselves when we're at a meeting or if we're at a dinner table or anywhere. But we can be totally lost in our minds, and then we can bring ourselves back to the present and opening to the state of being, just being human, being alive, being an opening through which we can experience anything that's coming our way, really, into that state of being. And I also like this phrase also from Oren J. Sofer. He's a Zen teacher. He says, not knowing is the most intimate state of being. Because when we think we know, we have all of our assumptions, we're not all that present because we're in our assumptions. I see someone and I make all kinds of assumptions about them, knowing their background or who they are or what they're doing or their day. And yet I can't really know who they are, how they are without relating and conversing and communing. So not knowing drops us into a place where we can use the mindset of curiosity and really be with someone and notice what we notice, both about how we're impacted by them and how we might be impacting someone else through our state of being. The word presencing is something that I learned from the Presencing Institute, which is part of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT. Came out of deep research some years ago that Peter Senge did by studying organizational development on huge organizations all over the world, from mining companies to Ford Motor to, you have it. And what they were looking for was what creates the optimal state of success for a company. And what they discovered was the human condition. And everything they discovered applies to us equally. It really comes from us because companies are run by human beings. And this verb called presencing starts with just stopping and listening. We call it the pause. We're going through our day. I'm at a shopping mall and I'm getting overwhelmed. I can sit on a bench and I can just pause and I can stop. And all of a sudden, everything changes. I'm not overwhelmed anymore. I've stopped. I'm just sitting and being, and my whole body recharges. And from there, I can notice when I take that pause, whether it's in a conversation with someone, in a family, in my company, and start noticing and observing myself, others, the world, all these things that are just distinguished in terms of noticing ourselves, others, and groups, thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. And then through that noticing, we can drop into what Senge calls presencing, which is listening with the heart. And it's fun to consider, what is listening with the heart? And what's happening when I'm not listening with the heart? And that noticing that comes through dropping the mental chatter, if we think of the mental channel up here in our heads, and we can drop into the somatic body felt sense down here where the heart is in our body, and we can really presence something very different. What's happening now in me and my reactivity and my openness, what's happening for others and their sense of belonging or their sense of anxiety. And then from there we can see, we can let open, we can let what's about to happen come. We can make a space for what's to come and see what's emerging. And in that emerging field is where we get to be in the field of creating. I realized that this is something on my recording here. I just made an adjustment to my picture. So I was noticing my screen and presencing that I had missed something. Happened through that pause, through allowing my consciousness to move into a state of being, of presencing what's true now. What's true now. So how does this occur? How does our being occur? And I want to bring in this wonderful metaphor called the rider and the elephant. Who are we being? This metaphor comes from a book that I have by Jonathan Haidt called The Righteous Mind. And he uses the metaphor of the rider and the elephant. And he does this ton of research on how the rational mind thinks it's in charge, but actually it's never in charge. It's actually the elephant that's in charge. And we're riding along on the elephant, and we think we're telling the elephant where to go. But if you look at his research, it just shows the steps by which we completely fool ourselves, and how the elephant, the body, the somatic experience of our whole being is really what's in charge. And when we walk into a room, we might have a lot of thoughts and assumptions about what's going on, but our elephant body is picking it all up through the energy and the awareness that runs through our nervous system and our biology and our heart waves and the ability to pick up on what's actually going on. So what does this all have to do with presencing precious moments? And we'll close out here momentarily in this brief webinar by just thinking about presencing precious moments. And just these images, don't they just open you up? When we are in a precious moment like this, we automatically open, right? Our hearts open. We get a smile on our face. It's the way of the human condition that occurs for us. How do we be this self? And it's not through the thinking mind, right? Because when you see a moonrise like this one here, this is a shot I took over the Sonoma coast on the northern coast of California, with the moon coming up, and your mind just stops. Or you see a beautiful young girl or this woman who's clearly presencing something fabulous, and we see a smile on someone's face, we don't go to our head and start thinking, well, what must they be smiling about? We actually have mirror neurons that in our body tell us to smile. So presencing precious moments is easy. What happens when we presence what I call your precious pain? But pain is harder, and when we see someone in pain, it's harder. When we're in pain ourselves, it can be harder because all of our protective patterns come in. We want to keep ourselves safe by avoiding it or pretending it's not happening or getting over caretaking or being hyper vigilant, getting defensive or being aggressive. All of these things just come into play. And when we notice them, we can let them drop away and actually be with precious pain, which we know from all of the neurological research. I just read an article this morning by Brene Brown about how we have to feel our pain neurologically in order for it to dissipate. And it's, of course, what the Buddhists teach us as well. We have to feel what we feel in order to be with what is. And so if we move that into the realm of presencing, we can just center ourselves and feel what we need to feel and allow ourselves to be wholly with another person or with a tragedy or with the world in all its difficulty, and feel it, presence it. And the more fully we presence it, the more it allows us to really, as His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Desmond Tutu say, and they've got this wonderful movie on Netflix right now. Finding the joy is about being in this presencing of what might be called loving awareness. Presencing all the moments as precious when we allow ourselves to drop out of our judgments. We allow ourselves to be whole, even in the midst of pain. Going to a funeral sometimes is one of the most wonderful things. I think of weddings and funerals. They're just these incredible experiences. And in funerals, it's because everyone has permission to cry. Everyone has permission to feel. All of a sudden, everyone's feeling together, presencing the truth of the situation. Your deep, heartfelt, loving awareness. So coming full circle all the way back to the frame of reference that we teach at Dovetail. What if resilience is about loving awareness and loving our awareness, loving the awareness that we're having in any precious moment? And I'd like to invite you to explore our work through our website, dovetaillearning.org. All of our work is free, it's downloadable. We have circles and trainings and many more webinars, which are also you can access through our website. This webinar is being recorded, as all our webinars are, and I will be sending out the recording and the slide deck and a series of links that will help you utilize this work in any way that you'd like. So with that, from Dovetail Learning, thank you so much for being here, and enjoy presencing your love of your life, and you're very welcome.